I'm Tom Frischler from Los Angeles and chairman of IATR. We have just some a quick presentation for you here, then we'll move on to our sessions this afternoon. I'd like to begin by congratulating Matt Doss on his re-election as president of IATR. And I just want to express my appreciation for all the work he's done, the work that his law firm has done, and his staff. And he really has brought IATR to a new level, of recognition on a global scale. If you look at where we were 10 years ago, we were a much quieter, less visible organization. It's one thing that Matt does not bring to the table is quiet. I'm very pleased to announce that we have some new members of the IATR board. And they are Helen Chapman from Transportation for London, Benoit Judin from Montreal, next year's host, and Jenny So from Singapore, but added to the board. And John Scott from DC has also rejoined the board. And those folks joined Jim Nye, the regulator guy from Philadelphia, Lou Hamilton from St. Louis, Joe Mora from Miami, and myself. We can now say we're truly international. In fact, the sun never sets on that IATR. At least not on our board. And as Matt pointed out to me, it makes it difficult to have a conference call. It still works. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. Bill?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I also forgot to mention Bill Gomez from Australia. Right. Matt, do you want to come up and bring everybody up to date on the state of the IATR? I hope everybody's having a good conference. We've got great sessions this afternoon, and we're going to have a real nice time tonight as well.
Thank you, Tom. Let's give a round of applause for Tom Frischler. I'm pleased to announce and privileged that the board has also unanimously re-elected Tom as our chairman of the board. And congratulations, Tom. Our condolences. This is so much work. It's unbearable in terms of government servants having to deal with all they have to deal with, and then running an organization. It's a yeoman's effort, and I'm very pleased we have such a great team. There's such great stability at IATR, and Tom has truly been a profile in regulatory courage, as all of our board members have in facing these challenging times. And they're friends, they're great colleagues, and our board is just unbelievable in terms of now the cross-continental flare-up. So thank you. We're building on a lot of different things, which I'm going to talk about. New projects, status of old projects, but most importantly, the theme of our conference. I think people still, they think they know what it means. I'm not sure what it means. I think the concept is that there's something new coming. The concept of what is a new world order? What does it mean? You know, there's historical references, there are different definitions. It's the theme of our conference, though. I think it means things with respect to what's happening in the ground transport industry, but it also means things with respect to the IATR as an organization. For those of you who've heard the term, there's a lot of different historical references to it. It usually follows some type of shift in global power, usually following a war. So you can draw the comparisons to what's going on now. Woodrow Wilson, in his 14 points after World War II, when he was arguing that we should have a League of Nations and have a peaceful environment, coined the term New World Order. It was then also in an H.G. Wells book in 1940 that the term appeared and was used, promoting a post-World War II order, a new world order, in terms of uniting the world in many ways, but also bringing about peace. The term was used again after the Cold War with George Bush Sr. After the wall fell, and we're talking about uniting in terms of a global world order, politically and economically. And then, of course, there's the conspiracy theory usage of the term, which I have to read this because it's interesting, this definition. As a conspiracy theory, the term New World Order refers to the emergence of a totalitarian world government. The common theme in conspiracy theories about a New World Order is that a secretive power, elite with a globalist agenda, is conspiring to eventually rule the world through an authoritarian world government. This is stuff, all-encompassing propaganda. The significance of this has taken a completely different turn. But there are some things to learn from a New World Order. That maybe there are people behind the scenes that are basically orchestrating things. Or you can just look at it in terms of geography. We have, one might argue that regulation and change in our industry has come about slowly, at a very slow pace over the years. One could argue it's like tectonic plate movement. And now, in recent years, you could argue that the disruption is more like an earthquake or a supervolcano. And change is coming very, very quickly, and we can't even keep up with it. In terms of ground transportation, you have global brands, you have apps, seamless integration, aggregation, all the issues we talked about this morning. And really in terms of the realigning of the continents and the global power structure and ground transportation, you have limos, taxis, liveries, sedans, everything is being blended together into one Pangea. Public transit and private transit, yes, it's going to happen. I think we need to bear in mind that Access-a-Ride is a failure, that taxis and limos are being used in large part to transport people more efficiently. You're going to see, I think, more involvement of the government and the private sector in this industry, and I think worlds are going to be colliding on this front. I also think you're going to see other things that you never ever thought of as a regulator. I mean, regulators sometimes say to themselves, well, why do I have cabarets also, and why do I also have to deal with pedicabs and rickshaws? Well, did you ever think that the people that you're regulating may be turning your regulatory businesses into logistics companies or data mining or business-to-business solutions? And one company today even announced that they're going to be doing accessibility. So the good news is I think people are listening. I think the disruptors are listening and reacting to things that ITR is doing. We have the merger of big data and transportation. The data and transportation is going to transform. It's already transforming everything that we do as regulators. And also you have, traditional small businesses and global transport companies and private equity investors. And everything is global now. There are global apps. There's a global brand. We never had a global brand for transportation. So I think the New World Order is going to be two things. The regulatory reforms and things that are happening may speed up this new shuffling of the deck, or deregulation may occur, which completely could be a breakdown in chaos. I don't think we know what this new transportation world order is going to look like. I think we all know it's going to come, and it's going to be different than what we're experiencing now. I think we're going to experience a shift in the balance of power in terms of the regulatory framework. There's going to be new players on the block, and at the government level as well. And I think the important thing is that IATR in the last couple of years has been at the forefront of these changes. Like I mentioned earlier today during the plenary, the TNCs are a result of the ITR. Okay, for better or for worse, we're having a discussion about people being licensed because of us, because of you, because of the app committee and the work that we've done. We've been complaining and doing work on accessibility. Well now, The app companies are offering accessible services. People are reacting to what we do, so don't ever think that what we're doing here is not making a difference, because our advocacy and our educational practices are. There's a new world order with the IATR. Somebody said to me last night, I think my friends from Montreal, how can we possibly top the parade we had last night? For those of you who visited, it was quite a treat. They've said that every year in the last 5 years. It started in New York. I had Norma, God rest her soul, telling me, I'm so nervous about Chicago. We're never going to be, it was better. And everybody said it was better. And then everybody was complaining about DC. We're going to the Four Seasons, it's too expensive. You know, it's going to be a catastrophe. No one's going to want to come. And we blew it out of the water. Okay, and then St. Louis, I heard the same stuff. I love St. Louis, but people are saying, I don't want to go to St. Louis. But we had a great time in St. Louis, and we had a joint conference. This is the most well-attended and the most far-reaching audience of members and attendees we've ever had in the history of this group. And I met with Michel Trudeau. People talk about the old days when Michel was in charge of the ITR, and then he, you know, there was a bit of a disagreement, and he left, and he took his Rolodex. I spoke to him, it wasn't this big. They had 1 or 2 translators. This is the biggest the IATR has ever been. And we're not going to stop. Because all of you benefit from having people from all over the world here. We may see a lot more translators in coming years. We have every continent represented, as Tom mentioned. Asia, Australia, Europe, US, Canada, all these major countries and continents. And whether it's a big city or a small city, you see all the small cities that we have here. The new board is a reflection of that. I don't know how we're going to have a conference call, but you know, it is certainly nice to have people all over the world with their different perspectives. There are common issues, facts, and challenges that we all have to deal with, whether it's technology and accessibility and pedicabs and safety cameras and partitions. And I think one thing we can say is that the model regulation process is the glue that holds our organization together. We would talk about best practices in the past in the abstract. We would come and deliver PowerPoints and forget about them and try to find them years later. Now we actually have things, when you leave, you have something that you can go back to your mayors, your governors, your legislators, your supervisors and say, this is it. And it happened with the model regs for smartphone apps. And it's going to happen in every single area. And we're developing that line of work, and the board has asked us and me to continue working with you on that. In terms of an update on major ongoing initiatives, which I think are groundbreaking, number one, the fact book. We spoke about this earlier. It is critical. The board is 100% behind it. The board is meeting with the technology vendors. We're going to get the data. We're going to use it. We're going to turn it into something which, like New York City did with their taxi fact book, is something that we can all rely on as a resource so that nobody has to really grasp at straws for the facts at the last minute before you're going into a hearing, or when someone just asks you a question like, well, how many cab drivers are in the US? Nobody knows. And this is something we want to work with the industry on. We're going to be working on it through the University Transportation Research Center and the City University of New York. And we're going to be working hopefully with other universities in Montreal and hopefully some of our friends through the TRB on the West Coast as well. The PASS Act, I think we talked about that ad nauseum yesterday, the PASS Act and the Clearinghouse. We need people to let us know if you're interested in the Clearinghouse. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen quickly. So if you looked at the MOU and you're interested, please let Tom or I know, or any board member, that you are interested in being part of the pilot program, because I believe it's going to happen quickly. And just to not confuse the issue, the PASS Act does not need to be passed for the Clearinghouse to work. We believe that the PASS Act is going to pass a lot faster if the Clearinghouse is in place in the next 6 months. It's not going to cost the government a dime. The goal is to save you money. We're going to be putting out an RFQ or an RFP to vendors to deliver the Clearinghouse for us. And what is that going to do for me? It's going to allow you to get more criminal background checks in a secure environment, hopefully with the goal of less money. So if you're using live scan equipment, or don't have checks, or you're using LexisNexis, or some are using the old fingerprints, the digital prints, this is going to be a system that's going to be implemented with anyone that you're working with now. It's going to be a database to cross-check information, and right now there can never be a better time to get this done with all the issues that are swirling about safety which are not going away. In terms of new initiatives, I'm pleased to announce that the board has approved looking into the implementation of 3 new projects. Number 1, we are going to be working with possibly universities to develop an IATR journal of transportation. There is no journal that exists for taxi and limo and regulatory studies and scholarly work. Yet, we have tons of articles that have been written, that have been submitted to TRB, that are floating out there that we present at our conferences every year. But we're going to put it into, and we're going to have an annual publication, at least to start, that's going to be a journal that is practical and academic, with different articles that are going to be helpful to our members in referring to those studies as you do your work and deal with the day-to-day, or something that could be full of new ideas and new approaches to different topics. We also are going to develop a plan for a regulated university or a boot camp. We are looking into a certification or an accreditation program for regulators. There are other organizations, like Tom mentioned, the airports, that can get a certification for being a regulator. How many of you would put into this job without any training? Well, there you go. People kind of like don't wake up when they're 5 years old and 10 years old and say, what do you want to be? And I say, I want to be a taxi regulator. I don't think it's way up there on the list. I want to be an astronaut, I want to be a musician, I want to build bridges. People, sometimes people are forced into the job, because you're good at doing things as a manager, you've had some experience, they try to, fit you into a spot. And I remember Malachi, when he came here, and he's the biggest champion for this, he said, I don't know anything about regulating, I was a police officer. And he came here and he learned how to regulate. And we need a training ground where people leave here and they can go back home and add something to their resume. Yes, that's great, but be able to hang on their wall a certificate from a best practices organization that has taught you not just how to do things once a year, but some type of other program. I teach a course in taxi and limo policy. It's an extensive course with an extensive syllabus, and it is a very interesting course. We need to kind of take a curriculum, put it into place, whether we take a week and we have people come down and spend a week hearing lectures and classes, or whether we do it over a period of time with the web. We're going to develop a plan for a program, whatever you want to call it, regulated boot camp, etc. And last year we had some vague discussions, but this year we're going to implement it. We're going to be developing a certification program for driver training. And it's not just safety training, it's not just training on how to be customer service, it's accessibility is a need. We're going to be putting out an RFI asking, and I know TLPA has a program, others have it in their own jurisdictions, they have their own ambassador programs, New York City has its own training program, everybody's got a training program. The RFI is going to seek to get information on the training program. We're going to develop a certification process, because there needs to be some standards out there. At the end of the day, if the people aren't delivering the good service, it's not just a problem of the industry, it's a problem for the regulator. The regulator's job is not just public safety, the regulator's job, in our view, as the IATR, is customer service. So if there can be things that can be done to enhance the training, we're going to do it. Now, what form it's going to take, I really don't know, but it could end up being that we give a stamp of approval to a course or a curriculum. But at the first instance, we're going to at least do an RFI. Tom mentioned we're a global group. There's no question about it. You saw the people that are here today. We have people from all different new organizations that you haven't seen. We have the TRB here today. We have the IRU. We had a working group visit from the UITP, which is an international group somewhat like APTA. We've had APTA at our conferences. We are networking and dealing with people on the world stage, and I don't think anyone can say that IATR is not a player. IATR is a major player, and your membership dues and your membership is being put to good use. Okay, this is something that's a passion for the board and for all of us. I do this because I feel it's an extension of the public service that I did for so many years. And while it's driven me crazy, it's a lot of work. It's worth every single ounce of blood, sweat, and tears. When I look around the room and I see all of you are benefiting, you're learning how to do your jobs better, and you're learning how to really stand up and help the public and save lives. That's what it's all about at the end of the day. So, what is the New World Order going to be? I think we know it. It's very clear what IATR's New World Order is going to be. We're going to be an expanding organization that knows no limits globally. What's going to happen to the industry? I mean, who knows? Is it going to be, like Aldous Huxley said, a brave new world? Are we going to have a negative utopia? Just, you know, after the Industrial Revolution, there was a lot of concern about people losing their identity. Is technology and disruption and the society and the things that are happening going to help make us lose our identity? I don't know. But we need to make sure that regulators never lose focus. We have an identity, we have a mission, we have a job to do. It's usually in your city charter, okay? It's in your laws, it's in your mission statement, it's in your job description. Okay, deregulation is anathema to regulating. Okay, it's the antithesis or the negative utopia of an IATR. Okay, of course we like regulation. Not unnecessary regulation, but yes, this industry needs to be regulated. There's no question about it. We don't know, there's going to be a reshuffling of the deck. And it could be that one set of business owners, like I mentioned this morning, are going to, unfortunately or fortunately, replace existing business owners. That could be what it is. The thing is, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. As regulators, we've had some really bold individuals, people who've lost their jobs. I had an individual, who I'm not going to name, who adopted the model rules and was told after registering for the conference and agreeing to speak that the city manager had been lobbied by a disruptive app company and told that you can't go now because we don't want you to come. We've had people that have been fired because they were standing up for what they believed in. We've had people like Chris Hayashi and Tom Drishler who were dragged through the mud for doing their job. Okay, last year we talked about building a house, if you remember our speech, from the ground up. All right, we will be there for you. Every time a regulator has been in need, we've been there, we've submitted testimony, we've spoken to the press to back you up, and the same holds true. I think the worst of it is over now. I think there may still be some turmoil for our members, but I think we're entering into a new normal. And I think it's time to engage in a dialogue and to start thinking about what the new normal, the new world order is going to look like. I don't know what it's going to look like for the industry. We'll see. But one thing I do know, and I'll end on this note, the new world order for IATR is good. It's good for all of us, and we're going to keep building bridges between our various continents, our various partners all over the world. You know, we're going to have hopefully more conferences, or even if they're virtual, with folks from Australia, the people in Europe. We have gotten over the hump. We have government folks who now are coming to our conference for a variety of reasons. Number one, there's a lot going on. Number two, the economy is getting a little better. We only got one scholarship application this year. Okay, last year we had about 5 or 10 of them. Okay, so I think also government regulators and governments in general realizing that there's a need for a group like this. Hence, that's why we have so many people here. All right, so New World Order for us is good. For everybody else, it remains to be seen. But we need to roll with the punches. We need to do our thing. So you may have your own idea of what the New World Order means, but that's really the theme of this conference. That's why we thought of this concept. I think we need to embrace the change to some extent, roll with it, but make sure that we don't eradicate or throw our values out the window because we're concerned about our jobs. We need to hold firm, we need to hold strong, and IATR has got your back. Thank you very much.